and welcome to Working Your Way, the podcast dedicated to exploring the journey of authenticity in the workplace and discovering how to navigate it your way. I'm your host, Sandhya Sudhakar, and today it's going to be just me yapping away in your ears about my most recent rabbit hole of learning and research and understanding a new topic. And it's the thing that I will talk to literally anybody about if they will listen to me. And the topic today is defining our personal style, and specifically defining my personal style. And I will share a little bit about why I have gone down this rabbit hole. But first, I think, typically this podcast is about the workplace and how we navigate our careers. And certainly style plays a role in work. There's a lot of shifting that's happening right now in terms of how we define professionalism and what executive presence really looks like and what we wear to the office. And in 2020, when our offices became our homes, and many people might have been working from their bedrooms and their sweatpants. So there's definitely an element of what does fashion from a workplace standpoint have to do with anything anymore? But also, I think what's more important and maybe more relevant to this podcast is what does personal style have to do with authenticity? And part of this is why I went down this rabbit hole in the first place. Because what I'm finding is right now, there seems to be an excess of everything, of trends, of you should wear this and you shouldn't wear this, and these colors work for you and these colors don't work for you, and skinny jeans are out and high-rise jeans are out and everyone's wearing jelly flats and you should no longer wear wedge sneakers. And it's just all a lot. And I think what I talk about with people in their career often is, do you have firmly planted roots? Like if you imagine yourself as a tree and your roots grow really deep and really strong, you cannot be swayed by the wind. And that is relevant in your career in terms of knowing yourself, knowing what works for you, knowing what work styles are best, what your strengths are. And so you can survive heavy winds and not get uprooted in those moments. Okay, so why did I go down this rabbit hole in the first place? I would say first is I was feeling a sense of maybe overwhelm around just all the trends that are out there, like I mentioned, and the cycle of buying new stuff. And I think it was in this podcast, I'll link it in the show notes, but there's a podcast episode called Interrupting Consumerism. And I actually think I heard this somewhere else. It probably was on TikTok, I'll be honest. But the idea that nowadays, when we need something, we can buy it and it can show up in an hour, versus how might we have done that in the past? If I need something that I'm not going to use every day, maybe I need a steamer just for an event or something. Instead of buying one and having it delivered, I might go to my neighbors and say like, hey, do you guys have a steamer? And use theirs, right? Or borrow things or share things with friends. And so the idea that consumerism and kind of this like excessive consumerism actually pulls us away from community was a really interesting one to me. And then also thinking about what brands do I support, especially as we are in a political climate that is very tumultuous. And I want my dollars to go to companies that support the beliefs that I do and that I feel good about shopping in. And so with ethical shopping and boycotts, and then just this idea of like consumerism versus kind of minimalism, I just have been feeling this desire to have less stuff. And a lot of this started when I quit my job and went back to school and started a business. And my lifestyle is just dramatically different in terms of, well, everything. But financially speaking, there are a lot of things that I've cut out that I used to spend money on that I don't feel the need to spend money on now. And I think this can go a little further where I'm just kind of in this mode of cleaning up the stuff that I don't really need. So thinking about what does style have to do with my values and how do I align that better was a big one. I would definitely check out that podcast episode. It just was full of really interesting ideas and things that I hadn't thought about. But the other one is my lifestyle is just very different. I used to work in a corporate office. I used to go to client meetings and we're, more business formal. And obviously, we all went through the pandemic and we wear a lot of leisure stuff and we're not working from an office every day. But for me too, I'm, now in a new decade. I'm in my 40s and I have new needs for my career. I now I'm facilitating client workshops, or maybe I'm doing keynote speaking on a stage, or going to events to network and talk about what I do. And so those things feel like they require a slightly different type of outfit for me. And so I just really wanted to understand, what does that look like now? How do I want to show up? How do I want to present myself and kind of stand for my brand, even in a way, in my business? And then the last one is that I really had this kind of narrative in my head about what great style looks like. And to me, it was a lot of pieces, or layering a lot of things, or having a lot of accessories, or having a lot of statement items. And like, great style means it's like this really bold statement. And I don't think that that's really the case, but that's kind of what I had internalized. And so to me, the idea of having great style was like, this feels really hard. I have to make a lot of decisions. It's very complicated. It's not accessible. I had to put a lot of stuff on in the morning, and I just didn't like that. And my approach to everything is always finding a way to do it that works for me. And so I said, why not here? There probably is another way to go about this that doesn't feel hard, doesn't feel like making a lot more decisions, and it doesn't feel like I have to be someone I'm not, or figure out a way to fit myself into this box of what I maybe believe that great style looks like. And so it was kind of a new challenge for me to take on. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the resources that I have looked into, and maybe a little bit about my own process of how I'm approaching it. And I think commonly we might think about how we think about style, and it's not just about how you look, but how you feel in what you're wearing. And I think that that is maybe the most important thing. Do you feel like yourself? Do you feel confident? Do you feel ready to take on the world? Do you need that today, or do you just want to be comfortable? And so thinking about, what do you need on any given day? What does your lifestyle look like? First of all, what's practical for you? And then beyond the outfit itself, I think for me, it was really important to consider the ease of getting ready. I really wanted this kind of like simplified process, having choices that feel easy. Because one, I've studied it, I know that decision fatigue is a real thing. And if you think about the whole kind of Steve Jobs model of, I'm going to wear a black turtleneck and jeans, just so I don't have to use my brain power or emotional energy on deciding what to wear, like that's really appealing to me, that concept. And so how do I make less decisions, but also show up in a way that I want to show up in the world? And I think that stuff matters as much as how I look or how I feel, but it's like, is the process to get there easy? And I talk about careers this way a lot too. It's not just about the end state. It's not about the role that you want, or the promotion that you're going for, or the end state goal of where you want to get in your career, but are you actually enjoying the process along the way? And that should feel good too. And so one of my kind of principles was like, I want to have it feel easy to get ready in the morning, leave my house, and feel really good about how I look. And so we hear a lot about things like capsule wardrobes, or staple pieces, or finding your color palette. There's a lot of color theory and color analysis out there. Those are some things that I didn't really get too deep into, but there are other approaches that people can take to kind of look at this. And then just thinking about this idea of consumerism, some principles that I am adopting is never buying something just for an occasion. So there'd be a lot of times where maybe I was going to go to a sports event and I would need a Cubs shirt for one Cubs game that I went to in the summer, or going on a girls' trip and, oh, we're going to Hawaii. I need something that looks Hawaiian, And so those types of things tend to be themed for the event and not for me. And so I decided that I'm not going to any longer buy something new for any occasion. We'll see. It's an experiment. And then the other one for me is don't shop when I'm bored. So I think the dopamine hit of buying something new, this kind of like sense of satisfaction that we get from hitting like purchase, instead of really looking at what I have today and identifying the gaps and buying things that I actually need that are going to help the process be easier of me getting dressed. So never buying something for a single occasion. Don't shop when I'm bored. And keep in mind this idea of I want the process to look the way I want to look, to be easy. So 2 resources that I have found that I absolutely love that I want to share with you. And again, there are many, many resources out there. But for me, the first thing that I wanted to do is really get grounded in like, what is my style? And so there's a woman who she has a book, she has a YouTube, she has a TikTok and an Instagram. Her name is Allison Bornstein. She's a personal stylist, a style consultant, and she's got a couple of approaches that I think are really, really cool. And so first she does your 3 style words, which these are 3 words that you choose to define your personal style. In essence, it's almost like a core values exercise where you go through an exercise to come up with these words. And then it's like, yeah, okay, this represents me. And now when I'm making tough decisions, I can go back to these 3 words and what they mean to me and use them as a filter. And so the framework is pretty practical. It's 3 words. But the first one is actually a practical word. So something that's a little more functional. And for me, my first word is minimal. And I thought about these for a while and I talked about them with some friends and kind of like tested them out against what I own and what I found myself wearing. But I think for me, minimal means not putting on a lot of pieces. Like I'm not putting on a lot of different pieces. I love a jumpsuit or a romper. I love a dress. And so it's like one piece can be pretty much my whole outfit. And then it's just like maybe shoes and a bag, maybe a little bit of jewelry. But minimal feels really good to me as my practical word. So minimal was my first word. The second word is an aspirational word. And so the framework is practical word, aspirational word, emotional word. So my practical word is minimal. My aspirational word, I landed on sophisticated. And I looked at a lot of different words, things like refined or luxurious or confident. And where I landed with sophisticated was honestly in the definition of sophisticated versus refined or some of these other words. And in my work with Enneagram, I'm always constantly fascinated by language and how different people interpret different words and often what they actually mean. And so for me, when I looked up sophisticated, it was about having kind of a sense of culture, like almost a worldliness. And I love this idea of kind of being grounded in something, but like there's an interestingness to sophisticated that feels high end, it feels clean, it feels aspirational for me, but not boring. And then my third word, which is the emotional word, which is really like, how do you want to feel when you're getting ready or how do you want to feel in your clothes? My word that I chose was effortless. And for me, effortless means like I show up, it doesn't look like I tried very hard, but like there's just that sense of sophistication to it, or that I am showing up in a way that feels aligned with who I am inside, and that, it feels effortless to kind of have it all together. So my 3 words were minimal, sophisticated, and effortless. And they kind of can live in the same world. But I think for me, these really hit the nail on the head. And if you think about other people that like I can think of like a friend of mine who is super creative and she works in design and she's always got these really colorful, almost kind of playful, little bit of a retro spin, but like bold fashion. So for her, I would pick words like colorful or playful or joyful or bold or layered, because she does do pattern on pattern, or she'll have a statement necklace, right? So, and that's for her style is a way that she expresses herself creatively. And I think that is great. And for me, that's very different. And so I do express myself through my style, but it's not a creative expression. And I I feel like the persona that I want through my fashion, through my makeup, through my clothing is something with a little more ease to it. So I did, though, think about how do I avoid this becoming very boring? Because I could pick out a beige jumpsuit and it would fit in all these words. And I don't want to just always wear a beige jumpsuit. So the way that I'm thinking about avoiding boring is thinking about how can I have my basics have a little bit of a twist or a little something unique? And so if I have a long winter coat, instead of getting a black winter coat, I have one that's kind of like a light brown and it's a little bit different than a basic. It's still a basic, but it's a little bit different than the long black coat that everybody has in Chicago. Or I have a pair of jeans that have this seam down the front and they actually look like they've been folded in and it goes all the way up to the waistband. So it's this kind of different cut. It's a little visual interest to it, but they're still jeans. So I can wear that with a plain white t-shirt and I still have some visual interest to my outfit, but I'm wearing jeans and a white t-shirt. So now that gives me something to when I need to shop for something, if it is a basic or maybe a capsule wardrobe piece or one of those kinds of things, it gives me something to aim for and to think about and have kind of like a target, And so I don't need to go out and look for something that fits the latest trend. I can still have some basics that feel a little unique and they feel a little bit more like me. The other thing that Allison Bornstein does is she has this kind of closet clean out system that I think is really, really cool. And she has you separate your closet into always and nevers. And there might be like some stuff in the middle, but the always are the things that you wear time and time again. They're the first things you're going to pack when you go on vacation. They're always at the front of your closet. Sometimes mine don't even make it to being hung up before I'm going to wear it again. So these are the staples you're on your regular rotation. The nevers, she has you separate them into 3 categories, which I think is great. The definitely knows, which is like, yep, get rid of that. That's easy. There's the not nows, which might be okay if you have some stuff in a different size, or maybe you have some maternity wear, maybe you have some stuff that feels sentimental and you're just not really ready to get rid of it. Those go in the not now pile. The third category is the hows. And so this could be things like maybe you loved something, you bought it, but you've never worn it because every time you pull it out of your closet, you're like, I don't even know what to put this with, but I love it. I'm not getting rid of it. I just don't know how to wear it. And so her theory here is you take those items and you pair it with an always item. And so if you have this really crazy top, pair it with your favorite pair of jeans, right? Because then it kind of balances out something a little like pushing you outside of your comfort zone, but also something that feels really comfortable and familiar. And so I love her theory in this framework of going through things, because when we just go through and say, I wear this, I don't wear this, there's always inevitably a lot of stuff in the I don't wear this pile. And I'm like, well, but I need it for this. Or, I'm going to a wedding next year and I need a dress for a wedding. So I'm not going to get rid of it, even though I never wear it. And so you can separate those into kind of subcategories. And I love this idea of, do I have something in my closet that just looks really cool that I bought and I just am intimidated every time I pull it out of my closet? And so now how do I actually bring that into the rotation? So I will link in the show notes her YouTube channel. She has a book out called Wear It Well, and it takes you through all these different methodologies that she has. And she has a bunch of different words you could choose from for your style words. But I love the 3-word method, and I love her closet clean out system. So that's Allison Bornstein. Now, the second resource that I want to share with you is something called the Indyx app. And if you're a millennial, you know the reference to Clueless, where, Cher had her whole closet cataloged and could like flip through and see what she wanted to wear and put the outfit together. And so it's similar to that. And there's a couple apps out there like this, but this one in particular, I really liked. I liked it more. And the 2 co-founders are 2 people from the fashion world. I actually found the app because there's this woman, one of the co-founders, her name is Devin Rule. She has an account on TikTok, and she was making content last year about having a no-buy year or a low-buy year. And so this was something that felt really good for me to try to like minimize the things that I was buying as I think about minimalism and living with less and not having to follow every impulse of things that I want to buy. And her low buy year was actually buying only one thing a month. So by the end of the year, she's only bought 12 things fashion wise. And having a running list and kind of choosing one of the things on that list every month. And so she goes through all of this stuff, but she's one of the co-founders of this app. And one of their inspirations was the idea of like, we don't need to constantly be shopping. How do we think about styling versus shopping? So how can you shop your closet? How can you put new things together? How can you be creative about what you already own or see what maybe you are missing? But for the most part, it's about being able to see everything that you wear, which like many of us in our closets are kind of jam-packed. And so it's really cool to kind of have it digitally. You go through the process of cataloging all your clothes. Now, they give you kind of a methodology to like lay out your clothes and to take the pictures and best practices around that. And, or if you have bought something relatively recently, or like me, I still have a lot of my old emails where there's pictures of the items that I bought because a lot of my shopping that I do is online. So that helped a ton with this process. You can just go and capture the picture from the clothing website and upload it there. So that's really helpful also. And so the ways that I'm using it are, one, I can see everything that I have. And then I've started to kind of put together outfits of things that even if I do get inspired by a trend, I can go look in my own wardrobe and see, okay, how do I put these things together? Maybe people are wearing something really kind of luxe with like more athletic wear. Okay, I can like try that with the things that I have and what pieces would go together. And just visually having it is really helpful. There's kind of this satisfaction too in like putting together an outfit and it looks like a little mood board. I've actually been using it a lot for trips that I've gone on. And so oftentimes when I'm packing for a trip, I'm like thinking about what I'm going to bring and making a list far in advance. And with this, I can make that list and I can just do it visually and I can put together the outfits that I want to wear and I can store them in what's called a collection on the app. And so I always know that it's there and I can even plan out which day I'm going to wear which outfit, which for me always helps a ton. I used to pack by just like throwing stuff in a suitcase and stuff like that. But now I really like plan out every outfit for each kind of different occasion that is going to be a part of the trip, a dinner or a day activity or whatever. And so that to me helps a ton because I don't overpack and I wear pretty much everything that I bring on the trip. So I'm going to link the Indyx app and heck, we'll just link Devin's TikTok also because I find it to be really interesting and maybe you all want to go down a rabbit hole with me. So I'm going to wrap up here. I think in closing, I think there are lots of tools out there. And for me, this process was about ease. It was about simplification of my lifestyle, and it was about authenticity. How do I align my closet more to how I feel today and how I want to show up in the world? And it can be for any reason for you, but like anything, if you aren't intentional and rooted in what you want, it is really easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing or the way that others are doing things or kind of sway every time the trend wind blows. And so I would urge you, if you're interested in this, check out the app, check out Allison Bornstein's content. There's so many good free resources out there. I bought her book. I think it's phenomenal. It's really simple and it's visually easy to follow. And with the indexing my closet, that has been one thing that I've just like, I did a whole bunch in a day. And then now it's like, I'll pull out 5 things each day, each morning, and I'll just like take pictures of those 5 things. And then I'm a little bit closer. So take baby steps. Think about what's important to you in this process if you are going to kind of reevaluate your style, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think closet cleanouts have been something that I'm like constantly have hanging over my head that I need to purge and get rid of stuff and make more room. And I think for me, less is more. If I know what I have and I can see it and it feels easy, then it's something that I know anytime I'm going to pull something out of my closet, it's going to fit the way that I want to look. And I don't have to go through the whole process of reevaluating. So ease and simplicity for me, maybe it's self-expression or like capturing a feeling. Maybe you want to feel more confident. And so that can be a goal in how you think about your personal style. Maybe you want to get more creative with it and actually have a little more fun with your fashion. So I think all of those are great goals. Just keep the intention in mind and figure out the best tools for you to grow those roots much deeper.